Another Thunder Footy video. Yeah, this one devoted to lithium, which I'll get to in a minute. This is recorded on a what's it called? A second generation flip. Pure Digital was the original manufacturer, but Cisco bought it. Not Cisco. What's that other one? Oh, I keep forgetting these names, damn it. But anyway, C name. Anyway. Yeah, so these are called Ultras. This one says Ultra HD, but this one I'll go to. It's the same basic shape of, they're the same. The third generation is the same as the second generation. But ironically, the first generation is the same as the second generation, except it's a little smaller. See, these are a little bit smaller, just a little tiny bit smaller. And so, you know, it's just kind of funny because it really, you know, instead of this one has like a slide on off a button, and this one has a push button. And so there was a big hassle because people bought cases, you know, to use underwater, and the second generations wouldn't fit in the first generation case, and a lot of people got pissed off. But anyway, that's a whole different issue. Point I want to make is that yeah, well, this one takes also 2 gigabytes per hour, which is the same as the first generation. And the real difference was when they went from 1 gigabyte per hour to 2 gigabytes per hour, because that was a big difference in quality, one would assume. But anyway, this one does seem to have a little bit better quality than the first generation, but that might just be an illusion. Yeah, that was more than I wanted to say. Alright, well anyway, more camera stuff at the end. So anyway, Thunderfoot. And lithium. So I guess first we'll talk about lithium while the video, whoops, wrong video, while the video is loading. Yeah, lithium's number 3 little electrons, and the smallest of the metals, you know, the lightest, tiniest. You can basically cut it with a knife or a fork if you wanted to do such, you know, if you were hungry and you wanted to eat some lithium, but you really couldn't eat it because, you know, it's like, well, you can eat it, but, you know, it's you know, too much of it will kill you and such. Yeah, it sounds problematic, but you'll have to live with it. So anyway, what do I want to say about it? Yeah, but yeah, lithium's just really cool stuff. Very reactive, incredibly reactive. So unlike helium, lithium is like almost the opposite. See, it's got that 3 thing. It's kind of lopsided, I guess. So yeah, it wants to combine with everything. So like in oxygen, you can just watch it. You could cut lithium and you could just watch it oxidize right before your eyes. It'll change color. Burns basically like a pink color, but I think if you burn it at a high temperature, it burns silver. You know, looking like molten metal or something when it burns, which is probably pretty cool. But I've never actually seen it myself. God, that light is really obnoxious. But too bad. What else? Well, maybe if I change the angle here, that almost works. Okay. Yeah, it's a little scanted, but that's better. What else? Lithium. Yeah, I mean, people take it for, you know, depression and stuff. It apparently does something to your brain. You know, it uses a little tiny bit of it. But actually, living things can do without any lithium at all, apparently. So it can function in your body, but it doesn't really do anything that's absolutely necessary or vital. So it's not critical to life function. As far as, yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. But anyway, yeah, but it's in all kinds of, you know, it does all kinds of stuff. They basically mine it. I guess the biggest source now is it's in seawater. You know, it's parts per million and all that kind of crap. But there's a ton of it out there, and because the ocean's really big. But anyway, so they go to salt flats and mine lithium in salt flats actually, and yeah, you know, there's theoretically not enough of it to do electric cars for everybody, but there certainly is enough to do this battery thing, and they're coming up with new ways, and so it's very good in rechargeable batteries, which these cells that are inside of your typical laptop battery, you know, they're just basically big AA cells, and they really should just let you replace the cells, you know. And because I took apart 6 dead laptop batteries, and I got about 30 good cells out of them, and so it's just a huge waste when you think of all the batteries in landfills now that still have life in them. And so it's just more bullshit. Thank you, capitalist motherfucking cunts. So anyway, that's a separate subject. We're not on the subject of capitalist motherfucking cunts. We're on the subject of phantasmagorical, silly, mishmush atheism. So on to the somewhat, whatever, silly show. Here we go.
Now, you've been screening this in front of a lot of church leaders and the faith community. What kind of response are you getting?
Phenomenally good. Breathtakingly good. Just incredibly good.
Yeah, yeah, well, of course. You make a video about how we got to listen to the crazy people.
Routinely standing ovations, tears rolling down people's cheeks. Very, very good response indeed.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. Ben Stein turned into such a little asshole. Obviously, he doesn't believe in a God. He just believes that people need a moral compass, and he thinks they're too stupid because he's Ben Stein, and he's really, really smart, but he thinks regular people are too stupid to do it on their own. So they need some sort of divine leader to tell them what's right and what's wrong. I mean, he's just such a weasel. This is these arrogant, pious, ivory tower thinkers, I mean, they're just such an insult to their own intelligence because they compromise it with their lies and deception. I'm sure he's not at all proud of the fact that he has to placate ignorance in such a manner, or thinks he has to, or think he has the right to, thinks he has a right to fuck the truth because he thinks it's good for human beings.
Ben Stein's movie Expelled is currently rated at 9% on the movie review site Rotten Tomatoes. And just to put that into perspective, Catwoman in 2005 won Golden Raspberries in the categories of Worst Picture, Worst Actress, Worst Director, and Worst Screenplay. And
oh, but wait a minute. It's a chick in a fucking latex suit. So yeah, I think that's sort of a bogus website. I mean, fuck them. Chicks in latex suits, it's a 50, even if the movie is silent and in black and white.
Even at that, actually carries a better rating than Expelled.
Routinely standing ovations, tears rolling down people's cheeks. The father would be off at compulsory work. The mother would have already been gassed. So they would take the child and give him or her an overdose of barbiturates to kill him. And that was horrifying beyond words. And that's where, in my opinion, this is just an opinion, that's where science leads you.
That's right.
Love of God and compassion and empathy leads you to a very glorious place. Science leads you to killing people.
Yeah. See, I mean, he knows, he doesn't believe, like I said, he doesn't believe in any God, you know it. But it's just about controlling psychology, and he just doesn't like the idea that science might impose a rational standard. But somehow he confuses the idea that hating Jews would be rational. I mean, that's the part where he doesn't understand that it's not, science never wrote a paper saying Jews suck. So that's not science's fault, that's ignorance's fault. Ignorance wrote the part that says Jews suck. That's the part you should understand. Dumb religious people will buy that kind of crap. A scientist won't. A scientist says something like, judge a man by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That's what a scientist will say. You dumb fuck.
Good word.
Science leads you to killing people.
Again with this bullshit. I mean, do you really have to do this cheap tactic? I mean, why don't you strip his suit off, put tassels on his nipples, and put tampons in his ears, Thunderfoot? Why don't you go all the way? Why only go part of the way? If you're gonna play with somebody else's content, why don't you do it all the fucking way? Why don't you have him dance like a clown? Why don't you have him say, I like to eat dog shit? I mean, you can do all of that, so why don't you fucking do it?
Good word.
It's frankly revolting that Stein found anyone who would agree with such a sickening opinion. A few of the things that science has done for us. Science has extended...
Oh, please, what science has done for us. Oh, that's just such a silly concept, even. What science has done for us. What, you mean trying to discover the truth has done for us? And a lot of different kinds of people did that. Mendel did that. He was a scientist, but he was also a religious nut. So, you have to be careful where you're going with this crap.
with the average lifespan from about 25 to 70 years. Science has eradicated smallpox, which in the 20th century alone killed about 500 million people. That's about...
Yeah, what knowledge eliminated smallpox, okay? Acquiring knowledge, all right? And that's what it's about, discovering the truth. So this really doesn't have to do with some sort of competition.
About 10 times the military death toll of the same period. The Haber process is estimated to feed about 1/3 of the people on the planet. That's a single scientific discovery which feeds about 2 billion people. The numbers saved by water treatment are in the billions, and these are just a few of the effects that...
Yeah, right, but then some of this technology has a boomerang effect, okay? You got people living longer, you got babies living longer, you got women having babies, you know, through technology. It's weakening our genetic code, and we create the opportunity to exploit the environment beyond its capacity because we come up with technologies that enable us to strip it of its functionality. We find better and sharper tools to cut down the rainforest with.
Most people are not aware of. Scientific understanding permeates virtually every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, so why don't you talk about chainsaws and what they've done for the world?
It brings us clean water, ample food, modern medicine, worldwide travel, instant worldwide communication.
Right, 7 billion people, unsustainable energy resources, exploitation, and unsustainable, an incapacity to feed that population when there's any degrading of the environmental conditions.
So on. After this, it's not difficult to see why Stein's appraisal that science leads to killing people is frankly sickening. However, Stein also seems to have an equally callow commitment to his statements on religion too.
Leader of a huge army with advanced weapons. There was Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, who openly worships Fidel Castro, who's turned Venezuela into a shambles, but is one of our main sources of oil. Not present in body, but present in spirit, was Kim Jong-il, the dear leader of North Korea. It's the most repressive state on earth, with an enormous military, nuclear weapons, and missiles capable of reaching Japan. When I saw these guys, I got a queasy feeling. What if Ahmed...
Yeah, well, you're kind of queasy invoking too there, Ben.
Ahmadinejad attacked Saudi Arabia and blocked the Straits of Hormuz? What if North...
Cool. That would be so fucking cool. Oh, yeah, anything that happens to Saudi Arabia, you know, any way you can sink that island of hell, shit, and stupidity, superb.
Korea, just out of the whims of its dear leader, attacked South Korea and started rocket bombing Tokyo. What if China chose that moment to attack Taiwan? What would we do if they did all this simultaneously? We don't have much...
Oh, yeah, we would pray, right? God will clean it up. I don't think so.
A few 100,000 combat-ready soldiers and Marines. Roughly half of them are tied down in Iraq. We don't have anything like what we need to repel North Korea, help the Saudis repel Iran, and stop the Chinese from invading Taiwan all at once.
Yeah, well, we didn't have any of that crap before World War II either, but somehow we figured it out, didn't we? Yeah, that's right, we figured it out.
Once. The fact is, in our rich nation of 300 million, we can barely field a military force that can fight one fairly small guerrilla war, let alone protect the world from dangers like Ahmadinejad and the dear...
Oh, please. You know, it doesn't take that much work to sit on an aircraft carrier and press a button. We got the hardware. All you have to do is put some moron in the chair to hit his fucking button.
Leader of North Korea. The dangerous truth is we are a naked, vulnerable superpower unless we went to the nuclear option immediately, an obviously terrifying outcome for everyone.
Oh, what? Yeah, we're going to run out of cruise missiles in a day? We got a few thousand of those we can use first.
We've let this nation's military shrivel and get ground down to a nub while we've cut taxes and created a huge deficit and high prosperity. This is terrifying.
Yeah, high price prosperity for the rich. I love that statistic where they show the average number of people versus how many cars are purchased. And in 1970 it was, 100 cars per 1,000 people, and now it's 40 cars per 1,000 people. So yeah, obviously some people aren't prospering as much as others.
Stuff.
Stein. You seem to have forgotten your earlier pious statements about the love of God and compassion and empathy leading you to a glorious place. This is a man fantasizing about a conflict that cannot happen as a selling point for expanding the US military budget from one that constitutes about half of the world's military spending to one capable of world conquest. Firstly, none of the conflicts of Stein's violent fantasies involve self-defense. They involve attacking other countries, foreign entanglement.
Well, whatever. I mean, if these things happened, we'd have to do something to make sure the right guys won. I mean, we're going to protect Tokyo. But whatever, yeah, I don't see that one happening. China will clean up that mess quick enough.
And for some strange reason, the presumption that the only conceivable resolution of his fantasies is the US declaring war on almost everyone. Naturally, in reality, the leash of globalization has meant that countries really do not have that much latitude on their actions. The soft power exercised by global trade, and that includes the...
Yeah, so what? I guess that was just put in for the purposes of a good icon? I really didn't get that exactly. What is her purpose here? I don't know.
95% of the people on Earth who are not American is an effective and benign stabilizing influence.
Blah,
it's
blah, blah,
difficult
blah,
to
blah.
contrive that a
Boring.
military-industrial complex
Boring.
capable of challenging the rest of the world
Really
could
boring.
be trusted to exercise the self-control
Really,
of not attaining that which it desires through the implementation of its uncontested military power.
Blah, 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 blah.
This is an instrument that mankind would be better off not
Oh, blah, blah,
constructing.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we have
However,
enough military.
I am
Everybody
curious
knows
as
that.
to how Stein reconciled.
I'm curious as to how many people were convinced of anything by the Ben Stein infomercial for the industrial complex. I mean, do you really think that, like, oh, Bubba is sitting in his living room is going, oh, yeah, hell yeah, we got to spend more money to stop them Arabis. I mean, come on. I don't think Ben convinced a single soul on the planet Earth. Do you have any evidence that Ben Stein's little, I love the military-industrial complex, did anything?
His violent fantasies about the US going to war with a significant portion of the rest of the world in self-defense, with his statements about love of God, compassion and empathy leading you to a glorious place.
Well, whatever. Look, Thunderbutt, there is a practical reality. There's a lot of crazy people out there in crazy maniacal populations in the millions and such. And you can't just pretend it ain't going to blow up into something. You know, there's every likelihood that Pakistan and India will find some excuse to fucking start lobbing shit at each other.
While science leads you to killing people.
Very much in my heart. I've always questioned Darwinism because Darwinism leads to social Darwinism, the belief that some races are superior to other races.
Naturally, Stein has a very good point here, that populations declaring themselves better than everyone else by some divine order is unhealthy for civilizations.
Well, that wasn't what he was saying. He wasn't saying by some divine order. He was saying that if they just did the Darwin math, they could make judgments based on the performance of different races of human beings. And that's a perfectly legitimate argument. That is something you have to be mindful of, and you have to, people have to have the competing conscious awareness to understand that whatever differences might exist, they are so trivial and slight that they aren't justification for a single difference in treatment between human beings. Yeah, there's no retarded races out there, and even if there was, we'd still have an obligation to them that would be just as significant as our obligation to each other. So that's the context here. But you just completely missed the point. I mean, Ben Stein makes a valid argument that sometimes you can be a little too clinical in your observation, and that clinicalism can lead to a destructive and dangerous cynicism. Ooh, that was sort of a good little speech.
Unfortunately, Stein's religion involves the belief that he is a member of a divinely appointed race of God's chosen people.
They got a hearing before a judge who said, intelligent design isn't science. And they're now proudly touting that. That doesn't mean a thing. Courts also say that abortion is clearly legal and is not murder, and that's nonsense too. Courts until 1954 said that black people could not sit next to white people in schools. Courts until the Civil War said that black people were just slavery or just chattel like furniture or horses.
Right.
So what courts say doesn't dictate anything to me in terms of what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, well, I guess that's not the point, though, but it's always, there's evidence. There's a thing called evidence in the world, and you compile evidence. And so you add up all the different things. And so all you're basically saying is that, look, well, the courts have acknowledged that this is distinctly different. So it's a piece of evidence. It doesn't mean the case has been proven beyond change. It's just a piece of evidence there, Ben.
I'm an economist by training from Columbia. I worked as an economist very briefly. Then I went to Yale Law School, and then I was a trial lawyer for a while. So what courts say doesn't dictate anything to me in terms of what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
For a man with a law degree, Stein seems to show a pretty contemptuous regard for the rule of law.
No, I mean where did he say anything about it not being the law? Where did he say anything about I plan on violating that judgment? I plan on, he didn't say any of that. He didn't say he doesn't have respect for the authority of the system. He just says he knows the system makes huge, gigantic, preposterous mistakes. Look, any court that could find O.J. Simpson innocent is a court that you've got to be a little skeptical of.
And its necessity for a safe and stable civilization. Indeed, he seems to be flirting with the idea that you shouldn't obey laws if you don't like them.
Oh, he didn't even come close to flirting with that idea. He didn't say a single goddamn thing to suggest that idea. I mean, that is just such a disgusting, weaselly projection of nasty intent. Ben Stein is an asshole, but he didn't say that, you jerk.
Jolly good for the spirit, I'm sure, but regrettably, if obeying the law becomes optional, then there is no rule of law.
Oh, right. So why don't you show some pictures from the 60s then, when they were protesting the Vietnam War and breaking the law and burning their draft cards and all that crap. Why don't you show those pictures? Oh, that's right, because that's when you think people should break the law. Ugh, what a pile of shit this argument is.
A civilization where there is no rule of law is called an anarchy.
Oh, duh, and he didn't suggest anything like that, did he? No, he didn't. All he said was his courts sometimes are dumb motherfucking bastards. That's all he fucking said.
I am an economist by training from Columbia. I worked as an economist very briefly. Then I was...
What the fuck is this shit? Yeah, we heard this already, Thunderbutt.
I went to Yale Law School and... But this is kind of...
God, that is just so fucking slimy.
You put your finger on something very scary, which is that there are very few places where more nonsense is spoken than in universities. I mean, universities, which are supposed to be the residual fortress of knowledge and sense, are the residual fortress of nonsense.
Yeah, well, that's goddamn true. I agree 100%. They talk a lot of bibble-babble in them universities.
We've got only a couple minutes left. You've got the floor. Why should people, just talk to the audience there, why should they go see Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed?
Because I need the money, actually. I got these 3 or 4 mansions now, and I got like some Lamborghinis and whatnots. I know I look like I only wear 1 suit and 1 pair of sneakers, but no, when I'm at home, I got some really fancy clothes made out of like dead leopards and shit. And yeah, I need the goddamn money, damn it.
Because we'd like them to have a vision of mankind as being something other than specks of mud and specks of dirt hit by lightning. We'd like them to have a vision of mankind.
Yeah, we'd like them to believe in a fairy tale, because fairy tales can come true. And we can't be like Pinocchio. We can't overcome if we don't have a philosophy that makes us all wish for the overcoming. Oh, yeah, this is just such psychobabble, manipulation. This has nothing to do with the truth, nothing to do with philosophy. It's all about playing a psych game, and you should be ashamed of yourself, Ben. You're doing exactly what's wrong with what's in universities. This is psychobabble. If you were teaching this crap in a university, it would be legitimately called psychobabble.
As having a divine origin. We'd like them to have a vision that they and their fellow human beings are in touch with the divine spirit and that they owe it to themselves. We can barely field a military...
Yeah, see, you cut them off. They owe it to themselves to what? Rise above a crude or stupid nature. Or maybe he was saying something actually good. This quote mining crap is another cheap fucking maneuver.
That can fight one fairly small guerrilla war to treat other people as if they were part of the divine. We don't have much more than a few 100,000 combat-ready soldiers and Marines, and they owe it to themselves to respect them.
This is just so slimy. I mean, this is how you have to do your argumentation. You have to sit there and dissect the substance into these, here's his pancreas, okay? Here, I'm going to shove his pancreas in your face. Here's his gallbladder. Oh, here's some shit out of his colon. Look at the shit in his colon. I mean, this is just so fucking unfair.
Themselves and their bodies. The dangerous truth is we are a naked, vulnerable superpower, as if they're a part of the divine, and to know that they are in touch with the divine spirit in the universe, and it gives them hope. Unless we went to the nuclear option immediately.
Yes, the hope. Yes, we must have the hope. Yes. No, we must have the no hope. That's how you fix things, Ben. See, you got it completely backwards. You didn't realize that what makes people better is misery. That's what makes a good human being.
An obviously terrifying outcome for everyone.
Good word. You might be a rabbi or a preacher someday. That was good.
Thank you very much.
Just add it to your list there.
Praise from Caesar is praise indeed. Thank you very much.
Ben Stein.
Well, that's kind of a funny line, ain't it? Praise from Caesar. That's a funny line to throw at this religious kook. But anyway, well, I think I guess he's a science kook, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, praise from Caesar is probably not a good thing, though. I mean, Caesar was kind of a bad guy, right?
The dangerous truth is we are a naked, vulnerable superpower. Unless we went to the nuclear option
this is just so fucking cool.
Terrifying outcome for everyone. We've let this nation's military shrivel and get ground down to a nub.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, well, so what? Yeah, when there was two superpowers, it was probably more than 50%. Fuck it. If you take Russia out of the equation, it was like 99%. So, but whatever. Yeah, I'm not for military spending. It's stupid, but whatever. Ben Stein is irrelevant to the subject. He's not changing any minds with this rubbish. He's more fucktarded than you are, so no one's listening to him.
The nub.
Well, that's some ending. Gee. Huh. Yeah, that was real. That's pretty pitiful. I mean, I would be laughing at your weak, sissy approach to this argument. This I'm going to wear my little tutu and get into the battlefield of ideas, and I'm going to cheat all over the place. I'm going to kick them in the balls. I'm going to play all kinds of little backdoor games. That would be laughable if it wasn't so fucking tragic. So fail all over the place, Thunderbutt. I mean, that was disgusting. You can't even have a fair fight with Ben Stein, right? Ben Stein. I mean, a guy who's stuck in such a preposterous duality that he's got to be so easy to rip to pieces on just mere logic. Oh, God. Anyway. So that was pretty bad. So anyway, camera stuff. Yay! So anyway, alright, so as pointed out, this is a second generation flip. This is the third generation. It actually is exactly the same as the second generation. Something of note, extra, is you can recharge the batteries in the second generation. I'm going to be able to open this damn case, which is the little thing on the bottom here. You're going to flip, and so it's just a little annoying. So I didn't flip it all the way. So anyway, open the case, and alright, I'm going to open the case. I will handle it. Alright, you got this battery compartment. Right up here at the top of it, there's a little tiny switch right there in the middle. So if you make a piece of cardboard, it'll close that little switch down, push it down, and then the batteries will recharge. See, they make a special adapter that has the batteries in it, and it closes that little switch down. But if you have to put rechargeable batteries in, you better make sure they're those nickel hydride or whatever. Then it will recharge the batteries in the camera. But, there's obvious advantage to not doing it in the camera because, I've actually purchased one of these cameras broken, and the entire inside was fried. I mean, it actually flamed on the inside. So somebody put probably regular alkalite batteries in and closed that switch, and yeah, it really fucked the camera up, burned it up. Anyway, yeah, so the next generation does use more memory, but it's HD, so that's the next step in memory. The second generation, what else do I want to say about it? They do have the bigger screen on the back. So what it basically comes down to is this second generation camera. I mean, this first generation. It was really a first generation Ultra. Now, see, this one doesn't say Ultra on it, but some of them do. And so this is really the first generation Ultra. And what in this camera, this second generation that I'm using, is the same basic formatting as this Minnow, which is the same standard. Okay, it's 2 gigabytes and per hour, but it's this much smaller case. It has an internal battery, which is really dumb. But anyway, I'll do the next video with that camera and explain further about the differences. I mean, it's much smaller, but it's much thinner is what it really is. But yeah, it's got some real limitations and such and so forth. So anyways, I know I didn't explain that very well, but anyway, yeah, it'd be really nice if Pure Digital had just come up with a naming system that was just straightforward. So the first cameras were F, 1, 30 or 60, and then the next generation was F2 and 60 or 30, and then the next, this is actually the Minnow. They kept the F designation, so it's the F3, 60, 120, that kind of stuff. And then the Ultra, which is the bigger one, its number changed from an F number to a U. So it became U1, and then like 120, and then U2 will be the third generation. Which you see, this confuses everything. U2 is the third generation. See, that just fucks everything up. So anyway, if they would have just kept the same, I mean, it's just this stupid way to. So there's realistically, you have to do a lot of. You have to understand before you buy a flip what you're getting, because they're very different cameras and they look alike, and that's problematic. But anyway, yeah, that's enough said though. So till the next time and such and so forth.